Hi, thanks for tuning in to A1R. This is Anna Olsen with Insights into Consciousness. I'm your host tonight, and you can reach me at annaolsenintuitive.com. You can also check out my bio on askoneradio.com. That's ask and the number one, radio.com. So today I wanted to go over what I have been presenting to some of my students that I've been teaching one-on-one, and it's just a little bit of a sample of what I've been doing with others and with the amazing work that we've been doing in a classroom setting already. I've started a couple of one-on-one clients already, and I wasn't going to start them until the beginning of the year, but now that we have a bunch of classes starting in January, I wanted to give people a little bit of a taste as to what it's going to be like and what it entails. So I just wanted to go over a little bit of the abilities that people are born with and that intuitives and psychics practice. So when we're talking about extra abilities, these are just the abilities in addition to the abilities that everybody already knows about. So when we are taught in school that we have senses, we're taught that we have the typical hearing, sight, smell, taste, and feel. Those are just 5 of many senses. So there are other senses, and just to kind of give you the 101 on what they are, I break these down in my classes, my one-on-one classes. I also break these down in my group classes, and you're able to do some dyads and practice with other people where you can really, really zone in on in a safe environment onto what you can do, what your strengths are, and what you can use as your intuitive abilities. So the first I want to go over is precognition. This is the ability to see into the future. Now, when people are living on a very linear plane of thinking in this lifetime, they look at seeing into the future as they don't really understand it most of the time, and I can definitely see why that is. What I've learned is that time is linear, but it also bends. So you have a little bit of a curve there. And when you have this little bit of a curve in your linear timeline, because it is actually an eternal round that is connected to after this lifetime, what happens is you can get a clear shot. You can get a good view into what can come. It's basically a way that we can let people know what's to come, and it gives them the chance to change it. Now, when you think about a linear or curved time frame, I know at least when I think of that, I'm like, okay, well then what am I supposed to do about it? It's going to happen anyway. So why are you even telling me this? The whole point of doing this is to allow people to choose differently. And when I do a reading, I can see what's going to happen if they continue on the path that they're on. What seeing into the future can do is it gives them a little bit of an extra chance to change that or to make different choices or to adjust their environment or their life in a way that's conducive to changing it to the way that they want. So when I work with people, I'm only focusing on what they want, what their goals are. I am not intrusive in a way of thinking it should be my way or that they should believe what I believe. I work with what they have in mind for their lives, their goals, and we work with it that way. So when I tell somebody that they are going to have something happen in the future, they can either allow that to happen if it's favorable, or they can tweak it so that they can make it even better, or they can prepare for it, or they can prevent it, or just change it. So these are ways that help people to control their lives and make it their own, and to make it exactly the way they want it. And the next is a retrocognition. This is the ability to see in the distant past. So if you're looking at something that's happened in the past, what can this be useful for? It can be useful, again, we're looking at the timeline. It curves, so you can also look in the past along this curvature. And the reason why we want to look into the past is because it can help solve crimes. It can help people understand what happened to somebody that they love or their child. It can help people to know what happened if they have no memory of something. And it can also help with types of abuse that parents may need to know about, that can help their children, things like that. So the ability to see in the distant past can also help when you're wanting to make sense out of things for someone. So when I do a space clearing, when I go do a space clearing, which is basically sometimes really, let's just call it what it is, a haunted house needs some clearing. You go in, and when I go in, it's like I can see exactly what happened there. I can see exactly why the spirits are still there. There's a story behind it. I can see their life like it's a movie. So much of the time when I'm looking at these distant or future stories, I'm seeing it like a movie, or like there's a story being told, a movie reel. I can see little flashes of a timeline and a story that will give me all the details, emotions, things that people say. I'll get a nice visual of it. And it can give me a nice explanation to the person living in the home now as to why this is going on in their home. This is the personality of the person that lived here before. This is why they're doing this. This is their denial that they're past, or they don't want to leave, or they want you to leave. There's always a story behind it. And if you can make sense of it to the person, not only does it make sense to them, but then they can work with that entity or that energy in a very positive way. Clairvoyance is the next intuition 101. And this is the ability to see events without being physically present. So when I'm having a clairvoyant experience, I will be able to do it by proxy. There's a way to do it by proxy where I've actually had a dream where I am the person going through a certain circumstance, where I see, feel everything as if I'm experiencing it myself. The other way that I've done this is as if I'm a witness to what had happened. And that is a type of clairvoyance where I can make sense, again, out of something for somebody, or warn them of somebody and what they've done to others, and to steer clear of them so that they're not their next victim. That would be the clairvoyance. And then mediumship is the ability to communicate with the spirit world and to talk to the deceased. This is really, really interesting. Among all of these different abilities, mediumship, I believe, is very important, because when we work with mediumship, we're working with all these different abilities. The spirit can, when we're working with the spirit and we're practicing mediumship, the spirit can tell us what happened with pictures, words, feelings, smells, sights, everything that you can imagine. They give you an experience, or they just tell you. Most of the time you can feel that spirit, you can feel their personality, you can feel exactly what they want to convey in their message. And the beautiful thing is that me personally, I have done work with loved ones that have passed, and I continue to do my emotional work with loved ones that have passed through mediumship. I can get messages from grandparents, from a parent, from a friend that passed. These are things that we could just pretty much ask for any time that we need help. If we need help moving on, healing, wanting to know more, understanding what we could have done better, what we can do better next time, these are the topics that can really, really be helped by mediumship and getting message from spirit. And when spirits give us messages through spirit, I want to say it can be, they can use precognition, retrocognition, clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience. I'm going to go over those in a minute. Telepathy, and even the clairalience, which is the ability to set the smell. That's a big one for mediumship. When you smell things like their perfume or if they smoked, their cigarette smoke. And then clairgustance is another one, the ability to taste. So when we're doing these different readings and these different abilities are coming through, mediumship encompasses and encapsulates every single one of these different senses, because the spirit will connect and communicate with me during a mediumship experience in all these ways. The next one is the clairsentience, the ability to feel the emotions of others. Now, when somebody sits down, usually I can figure out what the topic is right off the bat. So like say somebody sits down, they say, okay, I'm feeling like the topic today is going to need to be relationship. And just me saying relationship or marriage or your husband or your wife or whatever, sometimes the person right away, you can tell in their face and their body language that it's correct. And they sometimes start crying, they will tear up. They'll start discussing it with me, and you can tell from just their body language that it was accurate. And so that's one of the ways that I use feeling emotions of others. Not only do I feel the emotion from the person when they sit down, I also feel the topic of the emotion. So some people feel sad because they weren't getting along with someone, and you can tell, oh, they just feel sad. What I feel when they sit down is, wow, they're sad and they're having marital issues. Or they sit down and I feel like, oh, they're sad and they're having issues with a child. And I see that child's face in my mind, or at least get an idea like the age of the child and the topic behind it. So these are ways that you can get this ability to feel the emotions of others. Clairaudience is the ability to receive messages and information through psychic hearing. Now, when we talk about this sight or this hearing in the metaphysical realm, it isn't when you're having a conversation with somebody. It isn't like when you're having a conversation with somebody or how you're hearing my voice now, most of the time. When it is in this same experience that you're having now, it's usually distant or not very clear, kind of quiet. Most of the time that I have the experience with the clairaudience or the ability through psychic hearing is it's kind of like you're hearing it, but it's more in the mind. It's almost as if you were thinking out loud to yourself and you say it, opposed to when you're thinking those words in your mind, but not saying it out loud. So when you have that sort of like thinking out to yourself, but not out loud, kind of like, oh yeah, I really should go pick up the milk from the grocery store, but you're not saying it out loud. That's more the experience, but it's someone else telling you. So it's important with this one to know the difference between hearing for spirit and if there's maybe a chemical imbalance in the brain, and that can be something totally different that can actually be treated medically. So those are two different things. Clairaudience is more of a receiving message from spirit. This is not a paranoid or different voice in the head or anything like that. Those are very, very different. That's something different that is more that aligns with chemical imbalances in the brain that needs to be treated, which can actually be triggered by drugs or even alcohol. Alcohol is a drug, but just basically chemical imbalances. So there is a difference there, and that's important to know. So telepathy is the ability to read the minds of others and what they're thinking. We see this on sci-fi movies and shows and hear about it, and it just sounds so awesome. And I want to just let you know and let you know that I'm a witness. Telepathy is real. And human beings are absolutely equipped to have telepathy, and that the readings I do for spirit or those beyond the grave, guides, angels, those readings are done through telepathy. You don't get the message unless you're practicing the telepathy or getting the thoughts and the words and the messages through the mind. So there are a few different ways that telepathy can happen, and this is kind of different ways that it looks. I have received telepathy through just catching someone's thought. So all of a sudden I'm thinking what they were thinking. It's hard to explain other than it's a speed of light. Suddenly you have a new thought in your head and you're not sure where it came from. And when you vocalize that to the person next to you, they will say, well, that was me. You caught my thought. However, sometimes, and most of the time, I will know exactly who it came from. And when they are thinking this, and I can pick up on it, it has their essence. It has that person's essence. You can tell it's coming from their direction. Because it's energy, thoughts are things. Thoughts are scientifically measured as things. They can measure it on a brainwave scan, like an electroencephalogram, and they can measure brain waves. They can measure thoughts on these tests scientifically. So yes, I have heard the person's voice in my head from their mind, and I have also heard, just known the thought that they were thinking. I've also seen the picture of what they were imagining. So, for instance, when I was planning an event with another intuitive, and this was kind of awesome and really fun, we're sitting down and we're planning this event, and she wants to share with me a specific type of enclosure that we could use, like let's say at a booth in the event. And right away, I see a picture of this enclosure, and I know exactly what she's talking about, and I start drawing it out, and then she brings out this little pamphlet, and there it is. It's the exact same thing. So, we could exchange through pictures. We could exchange information of what we're thinking through pictures. We can exchange through words, thoughts, and feelings. So that's all telepathy. And I have communicated back and forth with a person telepathically, but I'm still so new to it still that I need to validate that with my speaking voice. So when I do speak with telepathy with someone, I will say, okay, so I just heard you say, and what I mean is telepathically, I just heard you say that you were going to go here or do this, and the person will say, well, actually, and I've had this happen with an intuitive, they'll either come from that or another intuitive I remember said, well, actually, no, I was reading your thoughts because, and it's really funny how us intuitives will kind of try to take the credit for what we picked up on. It's kind of hilarious. We'll kind of fight over who got whose thought and who is responsible for the exchange. It's kind of fun, actually, to tease it out and to kind of like pick it apart and see exactly who thought it first and who caught it first and all of that. So it could be a little bit of a challenge. It could be fun. It could be a game, and it could be fun. And it's amazing. Sometimes, too, my husband will be in the same room, and I'll catch his emotion. That's probably more feeling. That's probably more the ability to feel emotions of others, which are sentience. So my husband is a man of few words, and it really helps for communication for me to literally feel what he's feeling. So we don't have to have a long drawn out talk. I already know. And then I will say, I just caught on that you were feeling kind of disappointed. And he will say, yeah, I was kind of feeling disappointed about that. And it's kind of over with. But I already understood it because I felt it. I didn't need a long drawn out conversation with words. And it's extremely convenient, to be honest. Saves a lot of time. It's a wonderful thing to practice. So in addition, we have the clairalience, which is the ability to get psychic impressions from the sense of smell. So many, many, many times that I've spoken with people who have lost loved ones, they will describe to me how they got the sense of smell, smelling the loved one's perfume or smelling the banana bread that they were cooking, usually when they would go into their house to visit, or their essential oils, or their cigarette smoke, or their whatever it is that they had a specific type of flower outside in their garden that just would permeate the air, gardenia or something like that. People will share with me much of the time the smells are something either only they smell, or that they and other loved ones smell at the same time, but they can't figure out where the source is coming from. It's coming from the loved one that is passed on. And for my father smoked cigarettes. So when my brother and I are out, when we both smell cigarette smoke, we're always prone to look around and figure out, okay, is this dad or is somebody smoking here? And we'll try to see if there's anybody smoking. Most of the time, there's nobody out smoking, and we know it's my dad, and we just have an understanding. So clairgustance is the paranormal ability to taste a substance without putting it in your mouth. This is a really fun one because I don't usually taste stuff unless it's connected to how somebody tastes. But when we go to a restaurant, it's kind of fun to start practicing this, and you can just do this all by yourself. You don't have to tell anybody. But you can use the clairgustance by looking at the menu, and you can even order a few sides. If you want to, you can look at a few sides and say, that sounds kind of good, but does it taste better than this? Or, whatever entree. And what you do is you imagine, you can even imagine the chef, you can imagine the ingredients, you can kind of just stop and imagine how it will taste. And before you know it, if you practice it enough, after you order it, you taste it to see how close you were, you will be able to taste whatever is on your menu before actually ordering it or ever even trying it. And it's a really fun way to not only practice extrasensory ability, but to not order anything you don't like at a restaurant, which is really important to me. I don't want to waste my time, especially with a new restaurant. You can order a few sides, taste each one, see if you were right, see how close you were, and use that as a guide on how to do it differently or whatever next time, and to see what you missed and what you can kind of tweak for the next time. Now, I have, a huge list of extrasensory abilities that human beings do have innately, and it's a huge list. Even talk about energy manipulation. There's even an energy manipulation on here, scrying, photography, so the ability to imprint images in one's mind onto physical surfaces. Now, there's a whole lot of really neat things that human beings can do and that have been recorded. So what I really love about this study of psychic abilities, whatever you call it, paranormal, whatever you want to call it, the really wonderful thing that I like about this topic is that it's really fun for people once I start teaching these different concepts and people understand that this is metaphysical, this is an actual science, and these are things that all humans can do. They begin to realize that they can use these senses for their lives to save time, to connect the spirit, to really fulfill their true purpose in life, to help others, to be better at their jobs, to be better at their relationships, to have a better family dynamic, and to make friends, to be able to connect with people better, to be able to have healthier relationships where they can really understand the person that they're having a relationship with, whether it's a family member, parent, sister, brother, spouse. So, I just am super excited about this. Most of the time people will be able to read auras, and that's the first tip off that they have these gifts and that they can really, really use a lot of their extrasensory abilities and that they're kind of ahead on it. Seeing an aura is not typical. And as I grew up, I didn't know that. So that's your first tip off. If you can see an aura, you might want to build on that. So that's all the time I have for tonight. Again, my name is Anna Olsen. You can reach me at olsenintuitive.com. I can one-on-one coaching and lessons and classes with you via the internet on, just video, phone. So I can also do them in person if we're close enough. And I've really had a good time teaching people these extrasensory abilities. It's wonderful for personal use. And, some people are really planning on going into a business and using them to help others in their areas. And I'm super excited to share this with people and to really, really get them going on whatever it is that they're supposed to use this for in their lifetime. So I'm at this time. My name is Anna Olsen here on A1R. I've had a great time tonight, and I will see you next week, 6:30 Pacific Standard Time on Thursdays. So have a wonderful week. I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday, and you'll have a happy new year. I will see you soon. Bye.